When is it that you work? Oh man, so you're Sabbath. So you can tell me shit, not anything.
Okay, well, the hour being 3 o'clock, I'll call this regular council meeting of the town of Innisfail to order this 22nd day of February 2021. We have an agenda before us, but just before that, we have a very important exercise to go through and swear in Councillor Harrison as Deputy Mayor. I, Don Harrison, do swear.
I, Don Harrison, do swear
that I will diligently, faithfully,
to
the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
execute according to law
the office
of Deputy Mayor
the office of Deputy Mayor
for the town of Innisfail.
for the town of Innisfail.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Just sign this. All right, Mr. Harrison, right there. Thanks. Okay. I'll just about get it. Have to start over. There we go. No. Thanks, Don. Okay, we have an agenda here that's been presented. Are there any amendments or changes? Would someone like to move we adopt the agenda as submitted?
Your Worship, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. All in favor? Carried. First item on the agenda are the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 8th for consideration. Would someone like to move we adopt those minutes as presented?
I'll move those, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Any errors or omissions to be noted? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda are the minutes of the agendas and priority meeting of February 16th for consideration. Would someone like to move the adoption of those minutes?
I'll move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Barclay. Sorry. Councillor Barclay. Any errors or omissions to be noted? If not, all in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Well, now we have a special treat. We have Staff Sergeant Matichuk here for his report.
Good afternoon.
Good day, sir.
Got a few highlights, crime trends to speak about, and a few files, significance that. That's better. Got a few crime trends that are occurring in our community, and then a few significant files I'd like to speak about. When I go back, starting with December, the crime seems to be trending downwards. In December, when we compare December of 2020 to December of 2019, break-in enters were down 60%. It sounds like lots, but the numbers, the actual numbers, we had 5 reported break-in enters in 2019 that month, and 2 reported in December of 2020. Theft of motor vehicles, which has always been a concern for the recent years here. We had 6 reported in 2019 and 2 reported in 2020. Our total property crimes, when we compare that month to month, we're down 53%, 27 occurrences from 57 in 2019. Persons crimes seen a good decrease as well, 17 events in 2019 and 5 in 2020. And January was much similar to February. Total persons crimes were down from 10 in 2020 to 5 in 2021. Break-in enters, a small reduction, 6 in 2020, and in 2021, 7 in 2020 and down to 6 in 2021. And theft of motor vehicles continued to decrease. We had 8 in 2020 and in January, and 1 in January of 2021. So total property crimes were down 22% for the month of January. So it's trending downwards. Hopefully February we'll see much the same. I think the cold weather helped us in February too. So, you know, our officers seem to be quite a bit slower. One thing I'd like to comment on, in impaired driving, we had 27 impaired driving charges in town of Innisfail in last year. And what we have in the province is called the Corporal Cummings Awards. It's an award that's I can nominate for when officers reach 15 or 25 impaired driving charges. And I'm happy to announce 2 of our officers made those, reached those goals. Constable Erb had 15 impaired driving charges, and Constable Horn had 25 impaired driving charges. So they've been nominated for those awards, and they'll come out later in the spring. And that's a provincial award that's been going on for several years. A few files of significance. I know right at Christmas time and Christmas Eve, there was a collision with a horse-drawn carriage that was driving in town here. The carriage was operated with a very experienced operator, no concerns there, but a car drove in front and backed up and struck one of the horses. The horses were checked, wasn't injured, but unfortunately the young driver, or young, he was 29 years old, entered the house, and then they called our officers. There was a bit of a delay before our officers arrived there. There was a 31-minute delay in this getting from the time it was call was called in before our officers were dispatched. So that's something that's out of our control. Their communication centers, if they're busy, sometimes low priority complaints don't get dispatched too quickly. But our officer was in town, and when he arrived, he spoke to everybody. There was no injuries. The house that they were parked in front, he spoke to the RO of the vehicle, which was the mother of the suspect. She advised that her young fella wasn't driving and wasn't in the house. We had no ability or means to enter the house. We can write a Feeney warrant to enter premises, but we have to be able to tell a judge that that person's in the house. And he could have left through a back door, so we had no ability there. But she accepted responsibility, and she was given 3 tickets. One ticket was a mandatory court appearance, and the other 2 tickets were backing unsafe, $162 fine, and failed to report an accident of $405. She accepted responsibility and wouldn't identify her son as the driver, so that was the result of that investigation. I was just happy the horse and no one was injured there. We had another event with a man who was exposing himself to school bus drivers in town here and young kids. So we did some surveillance on the house and obtained video footage of the event. That way we didn't have to subject the young kids to go to court and that. And we captured the events and charged the man accordingly. He had a history of these type of behaviors. His first court appearance is coming up the 25th of February. We had another warrant. It was a result of a break and enters in Sundries area, but our officers did some surveillance on the suspect's house in town here, and were able to gather enough evidence, and we did a warrant on the house. We recovered lots of stolen property on that event as well. We did some media releases following up that event, and we got lots of interests in the area of Innisfail, and we were able to return to the house and obtain more property and get it back to the rightful owners. These people in the house were well known to us, and they are in the process or have moved south to Airdrie, so they've left our community. And then last week we had another home invasion, we call it, where 2 people that were very well known to us entered their property of their associates, who was a dispute over stolen property. and with a knife and a firearm. They didn't see the firearm, but they advised they had a firearm. So then fled. They didn't get entrance to the house, but we were able to use our division crew team, the crime reduction unit. They came and assisted us. They had about 7 members come and assisted us, and we were able to do some surveillance. We located the 2 people driving stolen vehicles. We were able to arrest one of the suspects. The other one broke containment and fled. We used our air services who followed the other vehicle all over central Alberta to Wetaskiwin back to Red Deer. But they entered a house in Red Deer, and we were able to pursue them into the house and arrest the other suspect. On the weekend, we did a warrant on their property, and we recovered significant amount of items, post pounders, dirt bikes, mountain bikes, generators, tools, chainsaws, and 6 more firearms. So we had a very successful warrant on that house. And those 2 are remanded in custody. And there's 2 people that are very well known to us in the community in the area. And then we recovered 2 stolen vehicles with the assistance of CAD crews. And there was another, the intersection of the golf course 54 and Township 354. We had a significant collision there. The person that was at fault for proceeding through the intersection unsafely ended up in the hospital. So we haven't made any charges on that person. That person was deemed at fault, but is soon to be released, resulting the collision. And we haven't concluded if we're going to charge the person or not. They were at fault and they spent a significant time in the hospital. So that file is still under investigation. And I think that's all I have today. Open up to any questions or concerns from council.
On that, we've recently been studying those intersections, the one at the golf course and at 42nd Street, and looking at a solution to the problems. And I think they were going to, and maybe did we pursue reports on accident reports or something, Stephen, or what?
We did get a history. So there was recorded 3 accidents over the last 5 years at that intersection. 2 in 2020 and 1 in 2018, all multi-vehicle accidents. We did receive a letter back from transportation in regards to the reduction in the speed limit along there, which they've warranted not warranted at this time. So yeah.
Yeah, I worked with Gary and we obtained the stats that we had for that intersection. And those are the numbers that we have, correct. Although that intersection seems to be of some concern, like it's been our observations that drivers are extra cautious at the intersection. I don't know if it's a visibility with the hill. I don't know, but I had fully expected more collisions at the intersection when I was asked for the numbers, but that's all we had reported.
Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but if the person doesn't see that when they're coming at full speed, plus probably 10 or 20, and it happens in a hurry, but we have to keep our eye on those intersections for sure. And I don't know what the devil to do, but especially the one on 42nd, once more houses start to develop over there. And but we're going to have to keep an eye on it. Hey, Council, any questions?
Sure, through to Chris. What's happening with the Bluebird Motel? Is it settled down there? Or?
You know, we it seemed to the impact where we did some collaboration on the Bluebird, and we have seen a reduction in calls for service there. We have seen some progress, but it's going to be a work in progress. Continue monitoring. It's not something that we can just move on to the next, I think. But we have seen a reduction in calls for service there. I think it's a great effort if we collaborate on these type of properties, because we bring our all different skill sets to the table and can address maybe more to the root cause of what's causing the calls for service instead of just being reactive.
Have you been getting any calls on COVID situations that people have called in or made a complaint or anything? Or
We started to initially, but they really, recently, we're not getting many calls. Our position has been to educate, warn, and only lay tickets if we can't come to some sort of agreement or resolve for it to stop. And then when it comes to commercial properties, we work with Alberta Health Services and the town CPOs on those type of events. But initially there were several calls, but of late there hasn't been very many. I'm happy with the province that lifted the sanctions because with the hair salon, our office was getting a lot of hate messaging and hate calls for us taking enforcement. But in my position, we had no choice. They were defying an Alberta Health order. We had no choice but to assist Alberta Health Services in that aspect. But since that event, we haven't seen a lot of calls for service.
any other questions? How are you doing for staff? Is the COVID taking a toll on staff or anything? Or?
We were doing great. Our office hasn't had one reported case throughout this event. So not saying it can't happen, but our office is staying healthy.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any significant contact tracing or mandatory lockdowns. Initially, we had members quarantining from travel and those type of events. But in the last several months, we haven't had any concerns in our office.
Okay, any other questions of council? Okay. I guess that's it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Staff Sergeant. Okay, moving on then to our business with administration information item, CAO's report.
Thanks, Your Worship. It's really there for your review and any questions regarding any actions associated with that, with the report and anything else regarding the town operations and administration. Again, I'll just leave it for council's review at this given time.
Your Worship, through to CAO Becker. Number 4 there, COVID liability for occupiers, what you need to know. Can you just give us a quick update on that, or what?
I'll actually have my colleagues help me with this one. Do you guys recall some of that conversation from Brownlee? So just the reference is to the Brownlee LLP Emerging Trends webinar that the administration sat in on last week, and you guys can help me out on that agenda item.
Go ahead if you want, but yeah, it was all of the sessions were actually really good and informative and just raising awareness on various topics. The COVID liability was largely focused on, you've probably seen in the news with some of the packing plants where there's actually legal action from even the employees that they weren't kept safe by the employer, those types of things. The general consensus was that as the facility owner, as long as people are coming there by choice, that there wasn't necessarily, as long as we're following protocols and doing that. But it was actually very informative just in terms of general liability for facilities and that type of information. So very good sessions all around.
Thank you.
Also move.
Turn my mic on. No discussion, all in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. All right, Mr. CAO, ECC report.
Again, very quickly, and Megan will cover me once again on her support. Just that the front end staff remain in half-day rotations, again, to lessen some of the interaction amongst staff in that confined space. So it seems to be working. Again, if we need to modify based on the workload, we'll make some adjustments, but right now we're making it flow quite nicely. I think Megan had some input on regarding some facilities as well.
Just an update, facilities, I guess, are continuing to operate as per the update last week. We'll see if we get any updates from the government this week in terms of the path forward and if there's going to be any changes coming down the pipe. But we have been able to come to collaboration with Innisfail Minor Hockey. So we're going to have some hockey development sessions, hopefully starting this week, whereby they are providing certified coaches and equipment, and we'll be managing the registrations in a similar fashion to our swimming lessons online. So people will be able to go on and register for various sessions. So we're excited about that we'll be able to get at least a few kids out on the ice, hopefully soon.
Okay. No questions?
Your Worship, I have one question
sorry.
through to Director Jenkins. I think I read somewhere in one of our Q&A things that was supplied to us that we're allowed to actually rent the facility, even if, if all the protocols are followed, to someone from out of town. Is there any demand for that? Or?
We do have some bookings actually this week through Thrive Hockey. So we have those bookings happening.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, would someone like to move we accept this report for information?
I'll move that, Your Worship.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Council action plan control. I had a couple of questions. On the 56th Street traffic volume, supposed to be looking at a survey of that. Now, we had talked about consideration for changing the speed limit in the rest of town as well. Was that not part of that that question to be followed up, or is 56th Street all by itself?
So I'll start with the first one, then I'll throw over to Stephen on what's happening on 56. But during the budgetary process, council identified as a review is the speed limit within corporate boundaries. We have not advanced that action item yet, so that'll be coming back to you for that conversation in the near future. So Steve.
Yep. So in regards to 56, so we've collected a bunch of data off of that. This was mainly just down to traffic volume and how it related to the previous WAT master plan that we've had done. So we will be gathering that information and bringing it back for a quick update as to how it compares.
Right. Okay, and land sale, 4991 60th Ave. Has that been finalized? All done? Okay. And I just see that the Urban Hens pilot project was to be scheduled for today, but I guess that's postponed.
Your Worship, regarding the Urban Hens, we didn't quite make it to the agenda. We took another review this morning. One more review. You'll be coming to your next regular council meeting.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all I had.
I do have one item to highlight to council, just posing a question. It's the very first red highlighted item, commercial design guidelines. So we tagged that one red. It's been allocated over to the urban design project. We can certainly leave it here in black bold, but we thought this is going to be part of that scope. So we're just tagging it complete, although it's not complete. Okay. That's okay with council.
Sure. I don't think that's an issue. Okay, any other questions of that action plan? No? Would someone like to move we accept this for information.
Yes, your worship, I would make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And an RFD regarding appointments on boards and committees. Ms. Connors.
We're just looking for you guys to approve your changes from the last A&P meeting as they're listed here, if they're done correctly.
Does everything look fine? No comments, questions? Councillor Harrison, you've got your light on there.
Yeah. I so move, your worship, that council approves the board committee reappointments as presented.
Thank you. Discussion. No? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Okay, community services, RFD regarding the cemetery bylaw.
All right, thank you. So we're looking to present for final readings of the cemetery bylaw 1647-2020. So the cemetery bylaw provides the requirements for the control, operation, and associated charges within the cemetery. In association with the infill strategy and review of current cemetery operations, the cemetery bylaw required updates with respect to the inclusion of new types of interment that are contemplated in the infill strategy, the regulation of adornment of graves and columbarium niches with flowers and other items, the inclusion of memorial walls, and then updates to rates and our perpetual care fund. So first reading was given to this bylaw on January 25th, 2021, with the request from council that the bylaw be advertised to allow for public notification. So the bylaw and the changes were outlined in the Town Voice in the February 2nd edition of the Albertan, and as well, they were included within the February utility bill insert. To date, I haven't received any inquiries directly related to the cemetery bylaw. And these changes, if approved, will be reflected on our website for information. The new columbarium was installed last Thursday, I believe. So our front end staff are anxiously awaiting the adoption of the new bylaw so they can begin utilizing that for the new columbarium. So at this time, we are looking for council to consider second and third reading of cemetery bylaw 1647-2021.
Okay, is someone prepared to make a motion to that effect that we give this second reading?
Your worship, I'll move that we grant second reading to bylaw 1647-2021.
Thank you. Discussion? No. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Is someone prepared to make a third and final reading or motion for third reading? We don't have to go with the second motion, no.
Your worship, I'll move that we give third reading to bylaw 1647-2021.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bates. Discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you, Director Jenkins. There's a lot of effort, I'm sure, to get into that. Completion and fruition. Let's move on then to 7.2, an RFD regarding the heliport discussion. Heliport.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the hard questions today. So as a recap for the heliport process to date for council as well as the public, going back to August 2019 is when the town first received the heliport compatibility report. That indicated that the current facility was not up to standards and that there were numerous deficiencies identified at the site that needed to be looked at. So following that report and discussion with council, we moved forward with having commissioned a risk assessment and patient care report. Those reports were presented to council in June 2020 and resulted in council voting to surrender the operating certificate of the heliport based on the recommendations from those assessments. So following that, in August 2020, Town Council, along with various stakeholders, including representatives from the Innisfail Hospital, local doctors, the Rotary Club, as well as those from AHS Air Ambulance, STARS, and the corporate wing of AHS. We had a virtual discussion in August of 2020 to go over how AHS Air Ambulance evaluates heliports, as well as have further discussion about the operations of the town's heliport. In October 2020, we hosted a virtual public education session that included representatives again from the hospital, STARS, AHS, our local physicians, as well as members of the public. In November, we presented all of those, the heliport compatibility report, the risk assessment, patient care report, were all presented at a public council meeting. Then in January, we presented potential alternative sites to council if we were to look at not rehabilitating the heliport in its current location, but to look at other spots that could be an option. At that time, our direction from council was that alternative sites were not necessarily the way they thought was the best way to go, that we would either stick with the current location or continue with the operation of heliport services through Big Bend Airport. So today we're here to present some operational cost estimates and potential next steps to allow us to make some decisions on whether we will be moving ahead with heliport rehabilitation. So if the determination is to rehabilitate the heliport in its current location, capital improvements, including site design and engineering, will be required to move forward. Lighting, resurfacing, markings, fencing, access upgrades, with an estimated cost of approximately $400,000 for capital and engineering, just to get the heliport back in a physical state that could be recertified. In addition, an estimated $10,000 for a rewrite of our heliport operations manual and the recertification process for the facility. The estimates for the ongoing operations of the facility have come in at $81,000 annually, based on an estimate of 6 missions per year. This includes the utilization of fire staff to secure the area in an association with how our consultant has described that we would have to be able to limit vehicle and pedestrian access in and around the heliport, and would also include training and staff costs for the creation of a heliport manager that would handle the administration and ongoing upkeep and maintenance of the heliport. So, additional considerations. So current services are being provided through Big Bend Airport. We did want to just bring to council and public attention that there is other conversations taking place across the province with respect to air ambulance services, and the reality that the town's not necessarily in control with all the decision-making that may influence this facility and its usage. So the Provincial Air Ambulance Review Report is currently being reviewed by senior AHS officials prior to any public release. And then just a few news stories that have popped up across the province in the last few weeks, largely with respect to STARS, sort of highlighting that they haven't been allocated the same level of funding that they have been accustomed to in recent years. So more just an awareness of sort of some of the other moving parts in and around this service. So if the determination is to rehabilitate the heliport, The next steps would include moving ahead with site design and engineered drawings with an estimated cost of about $40,000. That could take place in spring of this year and would give us far more detailed cost estimates for the capital improvements required for the site. Also this spring, we would move forward with having a consultant prepare the heliport operations manual to help us move back into a certificate situation. As the work would not be completed prior to the June 2021 date, which was the 12 months from when we surrendered our certificate, we would have to apply for an extension of that surrender. If we continue to move forward, we would be looking at tender procurement in the summer and potentially fall construction with certification next spring or winter. And then again, throughout this process, we would be looking at training and fine tuning those operations so that once any reconstruction was completed, we would be in a position to operate effectively. So at this time, our big questions for council is further public input required or desired for you to make your final decision with respect to the future of the heliport? And if so, what type of format, what type of input would you feel that you have been missing or that you don't feel the community has maybe been able to put forth? And the second question would be, how should the capital costs be funded? Should it be a full town funded budgeted project? Or is it something that is somewhat contingent on community fundraising prior to moving forward at this stage, or a little bit of both? So if there's any questions.
Well, I think rather than to require a motion at this time to open for discussion, is everyone okay if we just open it for discussion before we go any further and go around the table and see what contacts, but or anybody that's ready. Councillor Barkley, I see he's got her light on already. But anyways, questions, Councillor Barkley.
Your worship, through to Director Kennedy. So the operating costs of the $80,000, can you break that down a little bit? Like and the training, is that something that would be a one-time thing? Because I'm thinking if we have 6 firefighters out there, and I think we have to pay them a minimum of 3 hours each, right? Like that. I mean, we're talking about over $10,000 per flight.
Yeah, so kind of a breakdown, I guess, in moving forward into the operation. So we did look at it as manpower. So what I did do is look at it in regards to the heliport manager. We created that position, but really that's spread over 3 people. So it'd be a heliport manager, kind of our operations person that's going to be doing the inspections, plus as well as a coordinator for the emergency response plan and stuff like that. So that's spread over, we used about a quarter of a year, so about 450 hours. Plus we have the daily inspections that were required. We have staff training, just your miscellaneous maintenance is involved in that. That's a yearly thing. And then in regards to the actual event, the road blocking and the firefighters, we did use 6 individuals. So two pieces of equipment, the fire truck, another unit, plus 4 crews. So that did come to, you know, a significant dollar value a year. So, and that is based on using 6 flights.
Okay. So your worship, through Director Kennedy, are you creating new positions for the heliport manager, or are you kind of integrating that into our existing? So
we are proposing to try and integrate it within.
Yeah. Okay.
Within. So it will take some shuffling and resource kind of allocations, but it will be more of a dedicated position though than what it has been in the past.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I definitely feel that I think we have received a fair amount of public input, and I do feel that now that the dollar values have been brought to us and have been identified, I think that's very valuable for the public to understand, as well as if we do want to proceed with partnering with a service group or maybe multiple service groups, because I do feel that this is something that the community wants to get behind. And I think that having that opportunity presented to them would be appropriate. So as far as that kind of leads into the next question as to how would it be funded, I think that it's a little bit open-ended right now because we don't know the commitment within the community. So I feel that those discussions should be had prior. And that's where my standpoint would be, Your Worship.
Good points. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Director Kennedy. I'd like to go back to the fire trucks and a couple questions around that. So we would be charged for the firemen, the 6 per trip, plus the trucks. I feel that the trucks might be a bit of a double dip. We're paying for them anyways. Why would we charge again for the same truck that's sitting in the, am I missing something there?
It's just based on number of people that we need. So the trucks would be just one truck, one unit, one manpower. So we have 6 individuals, it's just 4-man crew and then 2 vehicles to get them there. And then the trucks would be used for your road blocking.
Okay.
Instead of trying to bring out barricades and having barricades on site, we would use those trucks for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I had, Your Worship, also through to Director Kennedy. Did we look at the cost of crossing arms, the gates there that some of the other heliports that we had mentioned earlier in our discussions that have, such as Stony Plain? Did we take a look at those costs, what a gate would be, or the two arms would be?
No, we didn't look at any costs in regards to gates. On the one side, in regards to the parking lot, that'd be hard to try and put a gate in through there just because of the vicinity of it. It is a big open parking lot area. And then on the road itself, I don't think we would look at putting gates in there. So.
Okay. And just the last one, Your Worship, and it's regarding public input. I feel that this has been out lots and we've got a lot of feedback. I don't know if we have to go out again for another survey or whatever. I think that, you know, the public has been kept pretty much abreast of what's going on. So, you know, I would suggest that, you know, the public input, we don't need to do anymore. So I think, and thank you, Director Kennedy.
Okay, Councillor Bates.
Yeah, first a question through to Director Jenkins. The other provincial discussions that might be going on, can we shed any light on what that might be? Is it related to?
From what I gather, it has to do with, funding, how they do their contracts, what those services look like, their procedures. At this point, they did a bunch of public consultation throughout last year. Even some of these, the original compatibility review that happened on our heliport was part of that process, with the province looking at the state of all of the existing heliports. Again, we haven't seen a draft or if there's any recommendations coming out of that could change provincial policy. So.
Okay. Well, and I guess I feel that in spite of all the work we've done, the average citizen hasn't, unless you go ask them. I've asked several and I haven't found anybody that like I started to ask them because I wasn't sure that they were getting in on the Zooms and that sort of thing. I haven't found anybody that doesn't think we shouldn't try to keep the heliport where it is. I think the $80,000 surprised me a little high. I guess it would be interesting to see what people think when they're confronted with that cost, and perhaps some of their donations that normally go to STARS would go to their own heliport. Now, you mentioned it sounds like STARS themselves are finding themselves not getting the funding they were expecting? Is that what I thought I heard between the lines too?
That's what's been reflected in a few of the media stories that have been out in the last month or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, in general, I'm told that, you know, people are donating now and they're giving their old vehicles to Stars. They're doing no end of things to keep a service in town, and they view Stars as being in town. So that's the input that I've had. I don't know, I guess if the rest of council thought that it's worthwhile doing a survey, as long as we do it in a, you know, in a tight way that we know we're getting a valid survey, I'd support that. But I'm not hearing many people say anything, but let's figure out how to do it.
Councilor Reber.
So I guess no real questions, just comments. I think I would like to see what we can get for like the fundraising component of it, because that's getting it there is one thing, but I do think we need to communicate somehow. If 81,000, that's more than a 1% tax increase, right? So I think I'd like to see some kind of public input or public understanding of that. Even if we go ahead with this and this is what it's an ongoing commitment. It's not just, I guess we could use the community bus for an example. We raised all this money for the community bus, $600,000, but then it kind of pays for itself after that, right? Till it runs out in 10 or 15 years or whatever. This is going to have an ongoing component. So I just think it's important that people understand that. And I'm not saying I'm against it in any way. I'm just saying I want to make sure that people understand that's what we're doing. So if we do it.
And your worship, just maybe through to Councillor Bates, the YouTube that is in the package, it's an hour-long meeting of what was it called? Heliport Emergency Management Services or something, HEMS, I think is the acronym. And so it was a fairly diverse group of people. And my impression wasn't that the funding for Stars is going to go away, but how can they do it better? So there seemed to be a lot more emphasis to where maybe HS would have more governance over that heli service as opposed to what it is now. So maybe a little more accountability. And, you know, I would say from what I saw from that YouTube meeting that certainly there was no discussion of this disappearing. And the fundraising was down a bit with Stars because of COVID, like everything else, right? Businesses and stuff are struggling, so they're not able to contribute quite as much as they were. But I guess what stood out for me in that presentation, because there was, you know, Stars people and physicians and stuff, was just the critical care that's involved with that service, and you know, that high level of care that the patient gets as soon as that helicopter gets here and transports them. It's you know, whether it's a ventilator or what it is, you're not going to get that in an ambulance. You're not going to get it in the emergency room in Innisfail. So when somebody needs that, they need it now. So I would like to see the helipad stay where it is by the hospital. And, you know, the $80,000 a year, it sounds a lot. It works out to about, what is that, $25 a household, maybe a little bit more than that. And I would also like to see us maybe reach out to Red Deer County to see if they're interested in participating at all. And then I think this community would certainly get behind this. And I don't want it being, personally, in my opinion, I don't want it being held up for another year because we're waiting for everybody to get their ducks in order, right? I would rather we see, okay, we're going to decide to do this, and then we can put the components in place and the collaboration piece after that. But
Your Worship, you referenced my question. My question was to try and determine whether we might be expected to have to pay more or less. And it doesn't sound like that's there. So when I asked Director Jenkins, it was whether or not the ongoing operation of it might be more or less to the town of Innisfail, and I didn't hear anything like that. So, and I don't know if it was misconstrued. I'm not pitching anything other than the citizens I've talked to want to see it remain where it is. I don't know if they've fully comprehended, as Councillor Reberger said, that ongoing cost. And I was at that time using the estimate of $50,000, which I think is what we had previously. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, I'm of the feeling, I think it's a project that the town is in favor of. The people that I've talked to feel the need for it, and in the situations of the potential for delays getting to the airport and that type of thing. They're just, if you're going to have a helicopter response, it should be there and readily, without, but I think what it's going to take, to be honest with you, is for the town to take the initiative to go ahead and say, okay, we're going to do this. And then you can sit down and say you want to work with the community on cost sharing situation with operations. Maybe our CAO and his staff can find some time to provide, maintenance and supervision or of the facilities on an ongoing basis. So I think we can work things out, but be quite honest with you. I think our next step is to make that commitment that this is our preference, at least it would be mine, to go ahead with this project, and that we look into the further steps as to how we can make it happen and afford it. But that would be my suggestion that we consider. I've had no negative feedback from anybody. It's always been positive, anybody I've talked to. And of course, the medical association, they're behind it 100% because they don't want to lose that one child if it can happen in a lifetime. So my 2 cents. So I think right now is with the information we've received, if we might entertain a motion to proceed any further and ask of more time of our administration, or say, no, we're not interested in the current location, and it be relocated or go to the airport. So my turn, Mr. CAO, have you got anything you would like to say?
Sure, only in support of what I'm hearing through council. From what I'm hearing is really strongly in support of the current location. If I can, staff, please interject if I'm missing a step or two. But what I advise you to consider, perhaps is two motions. First one being for council to agree to the rehabilitation of the Innisfail heliport. Rehabilitation means at its current location. You can certainly put that in, but for council to agree to the rehabilitation of the Innisfail heliport in principle. So that means you're giving direction and you're informing the community, we want to go there, but you still need information. Following that, what I suggest to you, as per what Megan and Stephen has presented to you, for council to consider, move to direct administration to develop tendering documents as for the town's procurement policy for the purpose of site design and engineering drawings for the heliport rehabilitation project. That puts administration in action to, again, there's no commitments besides staff time to develop that. We don't need to come back to award. We would go through the procurement policy to seek qualified firms to help with that process, and come back to you likely with this. Well, yeah, that puts us in play. At the same time, then we can work on public notification, how that may look like for you, get that to you in really quick return on the Here's Council's direction, and whether you want to put in projected capital and operational costs. Mm-hmm. Once that is in motion, we can come back to you with seeking funding for, well, you can even do that today, but at that time you may want to consider giving direction to, with some funding to move us towards developing the operations manual.
Mm-hmm. So is someone prepared to make that first motion?
Your Worship, I would make the motion that we proceed with the rehabilitation of the heliport in its existing space and in principle.
Is that enough, Mr. CEO? Okay. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? No. Okay, that motion's carried. The second motion is?
So just checking in with staff, does that make logical sense to you? Next step would be into engineering documents?
Yeah, because we'll approach some engineers and engineering companies in order to verify the cost before moving forward.
Okay, so just to repeat that draft motion recommendation, moved to direct administration to develop tendering documents as per the town's procurement policy for the purpose of site design and engineered drawings for the heliport rehabilitation project.
Okay, someone prepared to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, Your Worship, as worded.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. And did you want a third motion?
Well, I guess based on council's comfort, some operations manual is basically you're investing and it's likely going to happen. That's what you're saying. Whereas if you wanted the engineering documents, you'd get a more detailed costing of what it could be. 300,000, 250,000, could be 500,000. I'm not sure if that plays into your decision making, but if you're comfortable, you can advance the operations manual development as well.
All right. Is someone prepared to make that motion?
Your Worship, I'll move that we proceed with developing the heliport operations manual.
Thank you. Discussion?
Just friendly to be funded from general reserve.
To be funded from the general reserve.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Your Worship, just a question to Director Jenkins. When we were looking at potentially needing to extend that when we had forfeited our operating license, obviously it would probably be looked at more favorably to be engaged in heliport manual, like we're proceeding with that and then asking for an extension than if it was in limbo probably.
Agreed. That was the impression I was given from our consultant, that if June comes around and we're, in the middle of engineering, but the decision has already been made that yes, we are going to proceed with the rehabilitation, that extension wouldn't be as big of an ask, I guess, as opposed to if we were still on the fence as to whether or not we were gonna do it or not.
Thank you.
All right, have we voted? No, we haven't. Oh, Gus Reber.
I think given that we only approve this in principle and we're still looking to get more costing, and I think we have lots of time, I don't think I'm comfortable voting for starting this manual just yet. I think I'd rather make sure that we've got the commitment that we're going to do this before I think we got lots of time. I don't think we need to rush into this part of it.
All right, for the discussion, the motion stands to go ahead with that, but Councillor Bates?
Yeah, Your Worship, I was thinking somewhat the same thing as Councillor Reberger, that, or I'd ask the question, I guess, through to anybody who wish to respond. Is there anything to be gained, and is there anything lost if we didn't start the manual for a couple of months?
I don't think a couple of months would be a big change. I think that heliport manual may let us refine those operational costs a little bit more, because it'll specify exactly what we need to do in that procedure. So that would be the only sort of additional information that may come out of the development of that manual.
And if we could put a little more as well from the operations manual, we might find some potential changes that may need to be happening at the heliport site. So as part of that, you know, I think both of those doing side by side would be beneficial.
Your Worship, I would so agree that the manual needs to be started now. It's sort of the chicken and the egg. We need to find out what we need to do within the guidelines of Transport Canada, which are laid out in the operations manual, before we can actually come down with an accurate costing. So I would certainly stand by the motion as previously made. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? That's the question then. All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Your Worship, through to CEO Becker, what about a fundraising component? Like, would you like direction now to maybe start engaging in those discussions, because it takes a while for things to get formed, and it could be 2 or 3 months down the road, right? And whether it's businesses or county or service clubs, they're always looking for things, you know, they're planning ahead too, right? So we want to make sure that this is on the plate for them to consider.
I just wonder, Your Worship, Councillor Barkley, if you'd mind if we maybe absorb this direction, come back to you next Monday with a administration discussion item on to achieve your philosophy as council on the expectations on a funding model.
For sure, thank you.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Director Jenkins, I think, have you got, that wraps that item up for now. All right, moving on to 7.3, we've got a community awards presentation to make here. I think I recognize them out there, but.
Test. Is it coming? All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Your Worship, distinguished members of council, thank you very much for allowing us an audience today. You know me, my name is Kane Williams. I am the Recreation Program Coordinator for the town of Innisfail. And I appreciate very much you guys allowing us to attend this meeting today, because we have something that's very important. Usually this would be a major event that we would be able to host. It is our 2020 Community Awards Program. And unfortunately, this would be something that would usually be a big gala, a big affair, and we'd be able to invite everybody out and have a lot of fun. But as we all know all too well at this point, the pandemic has very much put a kibosh on a lot of what we've been able to do. So while it is still important to be able to celebrate our great community builders and the contributions that they make to our town, I appreciate you guys allowing us to come and be a part of this council meeting today. Now, I will be back once more, all right? So we are gonna present 3 awards today, and then we'll do the remaining 4 in 2 weeks' time on March 8th. But I just wanted to mention before we go too far that this is a joint effort between the town of Innisfail and the Innisfail and District Chamber of Commerce, so we appreciate their support. And I'd also like to thank our organizing committee and our nomination committee for their help. Without them, we don't get out into the community as much as you might hope. And it's always great to see a lot of the nominations that we receive. So without further ado, I would like your help in introducing our 2020 Community Arts and Culture Award winner, Mr. Devin Cooper. So this award is one, absolutely, oh, sorry, your worship, right this way. Too quick back there, oh my goodness. So this is an award for somebody who participated in arts and culture activities, a local, regional, or provincial or national level. And honestly, Devin does that all the time. He's originally from Innisfail. Devin is a renowned musician who does Innisfail proud wherever he goes. He's known for his singing, songwriting, and prowess with the guitar. He's shown that ability his entire life. His influences are Johnny Cash and Stevie Ray Vaughan. He combines elements of country music with Southern rock to create his own style. Devin has been featured at the Calgary Stampede, the Red Deer Entertainment Awards, the YYC Music Awards, Country Music Alberta's awards in 2018 and 2020. He was nominated in categories such as Songwriter or Song of the Year, Video of the Year, Male Artist of the Year, and Songwriter of the Year and Musician of the Year. And of course, he is a local fixture. But what we also wanted to mention about Devin is how much of a community-minded man he is. From the age of 7, he has volunteered as a performer at local hospitals, and he continues with that same community spirit today with his Ride to Remember initiative. It's very close to his heart. It's been running for 2 years now, and it helps individuals and families that have been impacted by Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia through the Alzheimer's Society. And in 2020, he kept that initiative going. He raised thousands of dollars, and yeah, he honestly, he's a great guy to celebrate. Please, your worship.
Grandpa Cooper, we spent a lot of time on the driving range, and we got to see you around quite a bit.
If you guys don't mind just speaking to the microphone, it's easier when we're broadcasting things.
Okay, anyways, Devin, you got anything you'd like to say, or are you going to sing a song? Or
I didn't bring my guitar, so I don't think I'll be singing today, but thank you very much to everyone in the town for acknowledging this. I mean, this award is presented to me, but it's really for everybody in the town who has supported me over the years and continues to support me and support great programs in the town. This is for everybody who has been a part of that. So thank you very much.
So, also a good parts man at Napa.
All right, guys, 3, 2, 1. I look great on social media. Most of them, great. Thanks a lot. Good job. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Devin. Very well deserved. Yeah, thanks, Devin. We made the trip up from Calgary today to do that. All right. So, as mentioned, we have 2 other awards to give out today. The next one is, actually, this is going to be kind of cool because the 2 next awards are linked. Our next award is the Coach Recognition Award. So this is for a person who has coached in Innisfail for a minimum of 2 years and has achieved accomplishments as follows. Has a commitment to athletes and sports development in the community, committed to team success, individual athletic development and successes, as well as demonstrated integrity and leadership. So our award winner in the 2020 Coach Recognition Award is John Waddell. And John is joining us via Zoom today. Yeah, so he is with us, and we will be able to present the award to him. But just to give you the rundown of who John is and why he is so important. John has been coaching hockey in Innisfail for the past few seasons, as well as lacrosse since 2017. And you're actually going to hear a little bit more about one of his teams coming up next, because they're the team of the award. Little teaser there for you guys. He always has the athlete's best interest in mind. He's always running drills to build skills and at the same time keeping athletes engaged and excited about sport. He is kind, knowledgeable, and dedicated to his kids. Sportsmanship and teamwork are a center of his coaching style. John is a gentleman who never misses an opportunity to advocate for his athletes and for their chance to play. So, right on. We do have the award for John here. Just right here. And
here, John.
Yeah, John, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, we can hear you, sir. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you.
Right on. You are live. You are live in Innisfail Town Council chambers right now. Would you like to say a few words, sir?
Well, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative to be receiving this recognition. It means a lot to me. I would like to say that being the coach, that you sort of are the one that is in the spotlight and takes the highlight reel sometimes, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes at lacrosse and hockey and every other minor sport, board members, managers, other coaches, and the parents and the kids and the corporate sponsors within the town, that none of it functions without all of those pieces of the puzzle working together. And without a spouse at home doing all the heavy lifting while you're at the arena. So I'd like to just recognize that fact that you're sort of the spokesman or the figurehead that takes the glory of a lot of other people's work sometimes. So I would share that with all those people that I have just mentioned. And a couple of ones I'd like to specifically mention would be Craig Nelson, Ryan Howlett, and Len Istis, who I have really been teamed up with the last couple of years and have a great amount of respect for their dedication to the development of our kids in a positive way.
Right on. Well said. Thanks, John. Yes, it's a little bit of a difficult presentation today, considering, well, you're not quite here right now, but thank you very much for that, John. We will ensure that that the award makes it to you. I will make sure that drop-off happens. But as mentioned, we get to tell a little bit more of your story a little bit with welcoming in one of the teams that you coached, which is the, sorry, I'm just gonna go grab a couple of people just from the lobby here in just a moment. Yeah, we'll see you. Welcome, come on up the lake, absolutely. Right on. All right. All right. So the third award that we will be presenting here today is our Team of the Year award, which is a very special award when it comes to teamwork. It is a local sports team who has demonstrated excellence in athletics. They've received recognition for achievements, and they've competed at a local, regional, provincial, or national level. Our Team of the Year for 2020 is the Innisfail Adam B. Flyers, who are being represented by their head coach, Craig Nelson, and their team captain, Blake Boomer. So please, a round of applause. So just to let you guys know a little bit more about these Flyers. They had an exceptional season in 2019-2020. This amazing group of young athletes strongly embraced the concept of teamwork. Because of their combined efforts, this team performed very well during the regular season and were invited to compete in the postseason and provincial playdowns. The Adam B. Flyers, while they didn't advance far in local playoffs, they played incredibly well during the provincial playdowns and earned the right to compete at the provincial level. Sadly, provincials were canceled due to the global pandemic, but they like to say, hey, we got to provincials and they were undefeated. So here for that, guys. Right on. Yeah, would you like to say a few words, Craig, Blake?
Blake, did you want to say anything or are you good?
No.
Okay. I do have a couple words, if that's okay, real quick. Well, I'd like to say thank you to the town for having these awards. I think it's a real breath of fresh air. You know, just given the global way things have been going, it's really nice to celebrate those things. So the team really appreciates being able to receive these awards. Thanks to Innisfail Minor Hockey, obviously, for being minor hockey and getting our kids out playing sport. A lot of coaches will go their whole career coaching hockey and never see provincials. So this team went to provincials, and that's pretty incredible. You know, our local athletes, our kids. Thanks to our manager, Stephanie Restow. She never managed before, and I asked her to manage the team, and she, I think, was hesitant, but did it, and she killed it. She did an incredible job. These kids did really well because of the assistant coaches on the team. Brad Boomer, you know Brad, right? That's your dad. Jeff Falk, Chris Martin, and John Waddell, incredible coaches, very dedicated men. But more importantly than anything else, the players, right? These young athletes from our town who can't be here, sadly, to receive this award. But on behalf of them, thank you so much. Captain Blake Boomer, Assistant Captain Dylan Austin, Assistant Captain Hunter Falk, Assistant Captain Cash Fielkowski, Juan Acosta Munoz, Connor Atwell, Coulter Brand, Lexi Dodd, Tucker Istis, Liam Kirshner, Haley Martin, Logan Restow, Liam Reynolds, Riley Sinclair, Mabel Waddell, and our two goalies, Andrew Nelson and Alex Roberts. They're the ones that earned this award, so good for them.
I think a lot of them might be able to hear you guys. They did join on the meeting, so they have heard all the kind words you're saying there, Craig, and it's very well deserved. I'm proud of you guys. And one other thing, I know it's a little bit tricky to share an award amongst the whole group of players. So there is a gift certificate, and when it is available to happen, you guys will be able to go out for a team dinner and celebrate properly together.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, you guys. Really appreciate it.
Right on. Thank you. All right, so thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your meeting today, everybody. As mentioned, we do have 4 other awards that will be presented in 2 weeks' time. And I will encourage you, just as another kind of further celebration of the difference that these people make, we will have some posts out through the town's social media channels. And it's great if, you can either give them a comment, maybe share a story, maybe share just the successes that these people they have and the difference that they're making in our community. So thanks a lot for allowing us the time, everybody.
Okay, I think that wraps up our awards portion. The next item are the correspondence for information. If anyone has any questions?
Your worship, if I may, just want to gear you towards number 1. Actually, everything referencing policing, really. I really want to put a spotlight on that. There's a lot of information in this package, but also through media and AUMA website, RMA website, just regarding what's going on with the government, the Justice and Solicitor General's review of exploring the provincial police force. The number 1 on the correspondence, Alberta Justice and Solicitor General request for municipal policing costs. What they're asking of you, council, is to release information regarding our policing agreement. I felt that if you wish to do that, I'd prefer a resolution. It's releasing your really the contents of your contract. So just to also within this correspondence package is an email from the president of AUMA, just stating, we know you received this information, urban municipalities, well, all municipalities. Here's 3 options for you to consider. That being, municipalities can compile and provide information as being requested. Authorize the RCMP to provide the information or not respond at all. So just a little bit of context of what's going on. So this Alberta Justice and Solicitor General is exploring the feasibility of a provincial police force. They've contracted PricewaterhouseCoopers to conduct a feasibility study of exploring the provincial police force. As part of the study, PricewaterhouseCoopers is seeking the total cost of policing. We're really only at our fingertips able to provide the costing of our members. We don't have all the details on hand. I guess we do through our quarterly financials, but if you wish to provide the information, I recommend we authorize Solicitor General through the PricewaterhouseCoopers to provide that information or get the information right direct from the RCMP, subject that copy of that correspondence be submitted to the town of Innisfail as well.
So you need, I'm sorry, Councillor Barkley.
Go ahead.
So you're looking for support, a motion to support releasing that?
If you wish to release that information, I would guide you with a motion recommending that we provide authorization to RCMP to get that information.
Right.
Your worship, through to CEO Becker, I was on that call last week, Wednesday, I believe it was, and that was the second one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if those are recorded, but I think so. Yeah, I've tried to find it today, but couldn't. But I think it would be really valuable for all of us to listen to. And there was over 600 people on the call Wednesday, and from the chat box and comments, I would say there's overwhelming support not to move forward on this initiative, even though, I mean, obviously the report's not done and everything, but certainly the feedback from the municipalities on that call that day was overwhelmingly against changing from the RCMP into a provincial police force. But besides that, I guess, like, what are your thoughts around us releasing that information? And
Councillor Barkley, it's basically public information. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything detrimental to that, and it may be beneficial that they get clear, direct information because they're going to derive at a number.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where my thoughts are.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe there's some opportunity for us as council to get together and sit down and talk about this issue, because it's, like I said, that's the second webinar, that's 3 hours each. And part of the feedback that I saw as well that was quite overwhelming was the communities felt there wasn't enough collaboration. You know, there seemed to be some reach out to communities, but nobody on that call had been reached out to and nobody knew about it. So I think there's quite a call right now, a request to collaborate more with municipalities around this issue. And so I don't know if we can, at some point in time, get together and talk about this issue only, like in a meeting or something. And so everybody's kind of on the same wavelength.
Sure. Your worship, Councillor Barkley, just for your comments. Again, I'd advise council to dig into some of that written material. It would make for a good A&P discussion item, agenda item. And I do want to put some urgency on understanding what that information is, and ensuring that your voice is heard, and don't take for granted that it's going to flow nicely. Just be alert. Watch AUMA, what they're doing, RMA. There's a partnership there with that ad hoc committee. So yeah, I certainly want to put emphasis on the knowledge on this topic.
Okay, any other comments? Great. Is someone prepared to make that motion?
Just, your worship, through to CAO Becker. So I'm hearing that next Monday's AMP meeting, that this would be on the agenda if time is of the essence.
Yeah, I believe it should become, Councillor Harrison, sooner than later. Again, all the information is easily gathered, but you can certainly start that research now. But I think it's safe to say we can put that on the agenda based on your desire for it to be there. And based on resolution, your worship, just to make sure it's what I'd advise you to consider is a motion, something similar to this. Move to authorize the release of the Innisfail Municipal Police Service Agreement information and associated cost information for contract policing, and permit the Alberta Justice and Solicitor General through PricewaterhouseCoopers to request the policing information subject the information is copied to the town of Innisfail. It's a little beefy, but it's covered.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Need a motion?
Oh, no, would like someone like that. I thought I asked that once, but let's have a motion. Who might that be?
All right, I'll bail you out and I'll move that.
Thank you.
So, Your Worship, just one more question for CEO Becker with respect to this information. Will it also include the building and those costs? Because I think we want to make sure that what's that? Yeah, town support staff and the building and the cost of the building and all that kind of stuff, because I think we better make sure we're comparing apples and apples. And
Your Worship, Councillor Barkley, that second page of the letter outlines the cost breakdowns, the information that they're looking for. It's quite detailed, and it does include everything regarding policing, from fleet to equipment, guns, armor, all that kind of stuff would be subject. So some of that's, again, I think it's more formula based on the individual at Innisfail. We don't have a direct information. We're billed, of course, within our agreement, but that's why it's important to understand what they're wanting and what they're going to get, and that we get a copy of that.
All right. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. All righty. I guess we want to go around the table. Councillor Hill, you seem to be first today.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I've just had nothing but great things being said in the community about how the streets are just getting looked after, and all this weather promotes obviously getting all that asphalt exposed, and yeah, everyone seems to be very thankful for our staff members looking after our community. So thank you.
Yeah, so last week I attended my inaugural Policing and Safe Communities committee meeting. It's a very solid looking committee, and looking forward to continuing to evolve that. This week, I guess this Friday, we're going to look at the Alberta budget analysis. And then I had one question, I guess, through to other council. One of the things we get from I believe CEO Becker and Staff Sergeant Matichuk is we do get some crime reports, usually like a press release that, and I'm wondering, would anyone have a problem if we gave those same releases to the various members of the Policing and Safe Communities Committee? Because I think it just kind of a recognition to them that they be advised of some of the activities. But it's a question. I think we should. I think it would be nice, but
yeah.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates, I certainly support that. Staff Sergeant Matichuk said at our committee meeting that these are public stats. There's anything that he puts out there, it can be shared with the public. So if we feel that there's a benefit in that, and I do, we see the RCMP out and about, and we don't really see what difference they are making in our community. So I would certainly support if the rest of council would like to put those out. I think the public needs to know that our detachment is busily at work.
Yeah. Well, like you say, Councillor Harrison, it is nothing secret about it, so it's public knowledge. I see no reason why
So
not.
do we need a motion, or just this advisement just lets it happen?
Your Worship, Councillor Bates, I don't believe so. It is, it's a press release that will be forwarded on to public. You get it.
Right. So we'll just add a few copy holders.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with not a motion with that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Because it is public information regardless.
Okay, good. Councillor Barkley.
So last Thursday had a Chamber of Commerce board meeting, and things are going well. I believe this Wednesday is the other part of the strategic planning. Councillor Harrison is going to go because he attended the first half, so better that I don't step in the middle of it. This Thursday, I am doing a presentation for Alberta Solar on the solar farm. So along with GP Jewel and Elemental Energy and myself, three of us are going to be presenting, and that's to kind of give an overview of the solar farm, or from my standpoint anyway, the economics for the town of Innisfail, and presenting to other municipalities that are interested in projects like this. And I was on the AUMA Police Provincial webinar the other day, and Friday I took part in the University of Calgary Public Policy School had a Zoom meeting on coal policy, etc., in Alberta, which was very, very interesting. So it was kind of nice to participate in that, or to listen to it, because it wasn't political, it was policy people. So I enjoyed that. And then of course, I guess this Friday we'll be, as Councillor Bates said, we'll be looking at the provincial budget that comes out Thursday.
Councillor Reber.
First, point of order, I don't think we had a motion on the correspondence and information. So I'll move that.
All right, we have a motion to accept for information and correspondence. All in favor? Would you carry on, sir?
Sure. So other than that, we had a transportation committee meeting last week, and we looked at a couple options for the second van that we've been looking at. And we picked one model to go through and make some grant applications. So we should be able to come back once we hear about the grant applications, probably in perhaps April, with a recommendation to council from that. And then coming up tomorrow, I have community services, and on Wednesday, Innisfail Public Library.
Your Worship, a question to Councillor Rehberger. Is that the van, is it is it new, or would it be gently used?
It would be new.
Thank you.
The two options we were given were side loading and rear loading, and we went with the side loading because the rear loading takes up a lot more room if you're in a tight space. So, I mean, the idea of getting a second smaller van for going out of town was to be more mobile or more nimble. So we were going for that version.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to our parliamentarian for his diligence. I attended also the policing and safe community meeting last week, and one of the stats that came out, I believe we've all seen the first communique with the committee members in a short bio. There was 2,538 Facebook hits on that, and I understand from Stuart that that's been the biggest uptake of any town Facebook post. So to Stuart and company, kudos. Staff Sergeant Matichuk gave a very good summation. We had the same presentation at the committee, so there's no sense rehashing that. But there is one thing that's coming up here later, third week, towards the end of March, is a committee community engagement on the policing within our community. And I know Stuart and his team are working diligently in putting on that format and presenting or forming questions around what that Zoom's going to look like. So stay tuned for that. I think it's very important, and it's all part of the public engagement plan that the committee and Stuart have put together. So again, thank you, Stuart, for all your diligence. I'd just like to mention that with this warmer weather, that a lot of people are out and about town, and I'd echo the comments of my fellow colleagues that lots of positive comments around what's happening, and our winter recreation amenities, our outdoor rinks and that kind of thing. There's lots of uptake there. So I think, yeah, it's to our staff that's keeping everything on track. I'm really pleased. So with that, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you.
Okay. All right. We presented an agreement in principle that some would give our CEO direction to proceed with some negotiations with the regional wastewater situation and with our lagoon location, and they are contemplating that, and the motion, I believe, what came back as a result of that at the commission level was to turn it over to the administration of the wastewater commission and town of Innisfail staff, and let them bang their heads together until they come up with something. So pressure's on them now anyway, so, but they're very close. But it'd be nice to get that done. They want to get after construction on it and get it done this year. So anyways, I did spend an hour or so on a telephone conference call with this kind of the Central Alberta mayor's group led by Tara Vera from Red Deer in regards to, she called this, and I asked the CEO, Becker, to sit in with me on that call as well. But the city of Red Deer, amongst others in the area, are very concerned about the decision that was made to go provincial on dispatch throughout the whole province and take it away from the regional centers and have one single dispatch for the whole province. And some of the people that were involved in it are saying that it's working great, and there's apparently not quite that response out in the field. So she had some very big concerns about, there was one situation of a response that took 72 minutes to an area about 10 minutes out of Red Deer, and the dispatch, or the 911 operator or someone took the information, didn't distribute it totally and correctly, and they had groups at Sylvan and groups were at Spruceview, another one at Drumheller. Anyways, it can. So in defense of the previous dispatch center, which we had in Red Deer, they had nothing like that, and are certainly more prepared to deal with addresses in a regional situation rather than somebody sitting in an office in Calgary and dispatching ambulances rurally. So I guess there's some concern there, and they're looking for support. So I think we'll be getting some information from Mayor Vera in Red Deer, and looking for support, and we'll bring that to you. But I think our own Chief Leith is probably quite familiar with the situations as well. So that'll be a topic coming up here for conversation the next while. But I think that's all I have. Director Kennedy, you got anything?
Just other than I'll relay the messages in regards to the good positive feedback. I'll relay that to the crews. It's always good for them to hear. So I appreciate that. And we're also quite busy with the capital projects, getting them out there. We have 2 brought in already, and this week we'll have 2 more out. So we're well on our way with the major capital as well. So it's good.
Dr. Jenkins? Everything? Stuart, have you got anything you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, a quick one. Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just a very quick one, as I mentioned. I think it was asked last week just for an update on some of the economic development activities associated with the strategic plan. So I think Todd gave a great overview. Just there were 2 items I just wanted to add that are under development at the moment. One is the new website, of course, which is we're still plugging away. We're getting near the finishing line with that one. The developer's just working on finalizing and refining some of the more larger structural components of that, at which point they'll be able to turn it over to us to finalize some of the content and get it ready for community launch. The other one is we're going to come to council on the 8th of March. I believe it's the next regular council meeting with a branding policy. So through that project, we received some new branding assets. We've developed out a bit of a policy that'll allow a little bit more flexibility in how we develop out some of our marketing assets. So we've got an expanded color palette, some new logo variations. It's not a rebrand by any means. It's just an expansion of some of our existing assets. So those were just the 2 items. Just wanted to provide a very quick update on.
Good. Thanks, Stuart. Vanessa, you got anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone listening know that when we get to the next open mic item, if they want to use their raise hand feature to indicate that they want to speak, just to remind everyone.
Okay. All right. See you all bigger? No. In the gallery, I think there's a young lady sitting back there. That's Marianne. There's, well. Anyways, Ken, you got anything? No? Good. All right. Oh, now I feel silly. Okay. Anyways, there's nothing else for, I'm sorry. Hmm?
Anybody have their hand up?
Who had their hand up? Hand up for? Okay. All right. All right, upcoming events. Are there ready for your information? Other than that, I would entertain a motion to go.
Sorry, Your Worship, to interrupt. I know Vanessa may mention about open mic, but we didn't really call for on the agenda to ask if there's anybody wishing to speak to council.
Oh, I get it. I'm sorry. What do you want to go around the table or what?
No, it's an open mic session on the agenda, Your Worship.
Virtual world.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any opportunity out there or in the virtual world for?
So those that are listening in virtual land, if you wish to speak to council during the open mic part of the agenda, just pop your hand up and we'll pull you forward.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion to go in camera.
I will move that, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Barkley. All in favor? Carried. Let's take a couple minute break.